This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. And I guess everyone today has watched, uh, maybe in awe at the unbelievable performance of the IDF, the military in Israel, and the unbelievable success of their nuclear defense. Remember when the Democrats back in the 80s used to make fun of this? The leading one being the nitwit in the White House. Nitwit used to say it can't work. Star Wars is ridiculous, the whole thing. And Reagan would point out that if you can take down a airplane with a missile, which of course you can take down a missile with another missile as long as it's smarter and faster. And wow, I didn't think I saw Iron Dome operate. And Iron Dome had a different set of pluses and minuses. The missiles being used by Hamas was significantly less sophisticated than the missiles complex than the missiles being used by Hezbollah. These were ballistic missiles. But you had much less time to respond to them. If you're shooting a missile from Gaza, it's a 10 to 12-minute response time. If you're shooting a missile from Iran or even over in Syria, it's gonna, particularly if you're talking about the eastern part of Syria, it's going to be you can have about a half hour, maybe longer, to respond to it. It may be a more difficult missile to take down, but you have a lot more time. And so, assuming you've got an arsenal of various different defensive missiles, some of which will decimate the other missile, some of which will guide it to the ocean, guide it to the desert. You can do it. Now, this was the largest ballistic missile attack in history, of anywhere. And the performance of the Israeli defense system was superlative. Now, it did get some help from the U.S., and the U.S. is kind of like, but as far as I can tell, we only put 12 projectiles up. I mean, they took down about 300 missiles. So thanks. I mean, and also from Israel's point of view, thanks for helping us get this technology. This is an American tech. This is a Ronald Reagan technology. This would not exist without the persistence of Ronald Reagan. Go see the movie, by the way. It's fabulous. It is fabulous. And this is one of his many great contributions to the world. And I had the great honor of having Bibi Netanyahu write a letter to Mrs. Reagan, which I personally delivered back when these were used the first time as part of the Iron Dome, and it said basically that he credits Ronald Reagan with this, and if it weren't for a husband whose spirit and works live after him, many Israelis would be dead. And if the Democrats were in control in the 1980s, we wouldn't have this today. They didn't believe in nuclear defense. I don't know how you don't believe in nuclear defense. That's like saying you don't believe in voter ID. People shouldn't identify themselves when they're voters. There's got to be to say you don't believe in nuclear defense, there's got to be some kind of ulterior motive for it. Some Marxist voodoo that was done. So Iran is anxiously awaiting the election of Harris, and this may because of the Biden-Harris administration yesterday to the attack by Israel on southern Lebanon, which was brilliant, by the way, I wanted to end. The little baby jerk in the White House wanted it to end. He'd be happy if it ended. He wants a ceasefire. I think these people, it's like Harris, every time she's asked about the economy or anything, begins with, I grew up in a middle-class family. I think their small intellects and limited minds allowed them to absorb only several concepts. So whenever they hear Israel and any of their favored terrorist groups, some of whom they finance, they're, there's only one: ceasefire, 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 ceasefire. You realize they wanted a ceasefire before it started? After Israel was attacked, 1,200 people killed, maybe 5, 10 times greater than September 11 per capita. Right? I got to figure that out. Um, we delayed Bibi from responding, and then we kind of said, well, it's really not necessary. The United States support of Israel ended after 2 days, and it became ceasefire, 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 ceasefire. Leave Hamas in place so they can eventually get strong enough to accomplish their stated goal to destroy Israel, to eliminate the Jewish people, and death to America. And now, the minute they invade, yesterday, Nitwit was asked about it, and he said he would like to see it end, the invasion. Now, I don't know what their reaction to this is going to be, but already the little things that are leaking out are, well, there were no Israelis killed. Well, that's not due to Iran. That's due to Israel and to some extent our military. Iran, Iran just conducted the biggest ballistic missile attack in the history of the world. What do you do if that happens to your country? You kick the living daylights out of the country that did it to you. And you don't just do it as a matter of spite. You do it tactically. You take out the thing that you fear the most, or you at least interfere with it if you can't take it out, and that is their nuclear capacity. The way they very, very brilliantly killed all the nuclear scientists about a decade ago and said it back then. Uh, be, uh, you got the Ayatollah hiding because he's afraid that they're going to blow up his cell phone. Some people say, well, you kill the Ayatollah. Um, if I had a choice between the two, I take out the nuclear. The Ayatollah is going to get overthrown. We just have to elect Trump. He'll be overthrown. If Trump is president, he'll be gone. I would say I'll give him a longer term than I think is a year and a half to 2 years. That's what I thought would be the case had Trump been reelected. This is not just off the top of my head. I have quite a bit of information about what's going on inside of Iran, and I get to see it on video sometimes. At least back then I did. And now I got a briefing on it from people who know. There's real fear that if Israel were to hit them really hard, the Ayatollah might go. And there are a lot of people in Iran that want Israel to hit them hard because they want to be free of the Ayatollah. Iran is not Palestine. And by the way, Lebanon isn't either. The Lebanese army withdrew the other day. They're no longer standing with Hezbollah. Lebanon would be quite satisfied if there was no Hezbollah controlling their country, and they could control their country again. And there's a difference. The Palestinians, they're much smaller. They have all have a very, very strong terrorist roots going back to Arafat, who before he became a con man and a shakedown artist, killed 27 Americans and hundreds, if not thousands, of Israelis, conducted the seminal terrorist attacks of the 1970s. And basically the whole country were terrorists. And they're all trained to kill Americans and to kill Jews. This is not the case in Iran. It's not the case in Lebanon. There are large segments of the population that are completely opposed to the dictatorial regimes. So if they were to take out their nuclear facilities, you could see an overthrow. Also, we should hit the Houthis real hard and eliminate them. because they are a tremendous menace to international shipping. And the United States is looking very, very weak in not being able to protect uh, 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 shipping. I mean, they've done 140 attacks, including killing Americans and disabling Americans, and we're just taking it like the kind of patsies that these communists in the White House are. Um, After all, I mean, Harris, along with Biden, but Harris condemned Trump's decision to kill Soleimani, which will give you, I mean, it's a hell of a thing to do that. Soleimani was a major murderer of Americans. There's no one who's a loyal American who had any doubt that this man should be killed. An awful lot of families are without their son or daughter because of Soleimani. And it delivered a blow to Iran that really is still affecting them. And Khomeini is just hoping, praying, and doing everything he can um, to wait for Harris to become president because she may go back to Obama and be even better than Biden has been to them. Biden has loosened up the sanctions. He's gotten cash. He's gotten wires over to them, et cetera. But I don't think, but he may. I don't think he sends them cash under the table the way Obama did. She may. She may do that. Um, also, yesterday, there was a major leader of Hamas who was in charge of the Hamas Lebanon branch. He was killed with his wife, his son, and his daughter when their home was hit by a Israeli projectile. And his name is Fatah Sharif Abu El Amin. Fatah Sharif Abu El Amin. So why do I mention him? He's one of 100 major, well, actually not really. He's one of about 20 major leaders of Hezbollah that has been destroyed. Their whole leadership has been eliminated, which is making the invasion somewhat easier than it would be. Also, the 10 days of shelling did that as well. I don't know that most people understood that it was preliminary to an invasion, but Israel understood it. That's all that matters. Well, Fatah Sharif Abu El Amin, who was one of the top people in Hamas, also had a job. Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. He worked for the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East. In other words, he worked for UNRWA, the UN. Remember, a bunch of them were caught killing and raping, and a number of their employees were caught killing and raping people on October 7th, UN employees of UNRWA. Um, and the head of UNRWA, Philip Lazzarini, told reporters in Geneva that they were never made aware of his high ranking position within Hamas. Well, maybe they should have found out. And there's no reason to be made aware of it. Almost everybody they employ is part of Hamas. Well, they're all Palestinian, which means that they all steal whatever the UN sends there for Hamas, including the ones that aren't part of Hamas, because Hamas is not going to let them use it for the Palestinians. They're going to let them use it for Hamas first. Um, Reef worked for the agency as a school principal, and he was head of the union representing thousands of teachers, which is also the UN is the one that supplies the books about the American devil and the Israeli devils and the anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish hate, supplied by the UN. Who's going to have a meeting tomorrow? Who cares? What possible relevance is it that the UN is going to have a meeting tomorrow? They haven't intervened or had anything to do with bringing peace to the world since the Korean War. Even Clinton used to say they were useless. I have no idea why we even have them. Just so that a group of criminals can get together every year and steal money in New York. Now, are we showing that guy, Ted? That's who Fatah Al-Min, the teacher. He's like the Tampon Tim. He's a teacher. It's like the teachers union that was founded by communists and have groomed our kids to be Marxist. Well, we're going to get to the debate in a minute, but let's catch up with Hurricane Helene, which is really, I think, surprised everyone in the severity of it. I mean, some towns were completely washed away, and it's really one of the most damaging and deadly hurricanes in a very, very long time. The death toll is at about 140 now, Ted. Keeps going up.
160.
Yeah, this morning it was at 100. So about 60 more. And I think that the mayor of Asheville, Esther Mannheimer, is correct. I don't think folks knew or expected the devastation here would be on this level. Looks like North Carolina was hit the most. South Carolina had 29 storm-related deaths. Georgia had 25. Florida 11. Tennessee had 4, and 2 in Virginia. But most of the rest were in North Carolina. Now, President Biden is going to travel there tomorrow. But where the hell was he on Friday night when when Ted was almost washed away in the Atlantic Ocean? And where the hell was he on Saturday? I mean, I don't mean having to go there. I mean on television. When we had hurricanes in New York, I was on television constantly, giving people useful information as well as knowing that it would help them with their morale. Where was Harris? I don't know, probably collecting money somewhere. The guy who went there was Trump, and he went there and he brought Samaritan's Purse with him. That's Franklin Graham's wonderful charity, and also his own materials, and did something constructive. But Biden didn't say anything until yesterday. I don't think he's made a statement on the attack on Israel either. He's using people to talk for him, like he's a demented old man who really can't talk for himself. He's making little comments, like I told you, like he would like to see it end, and he's for a ceasefire. But you would think something like this, the American president would stand up in front of the American people and give us his view of what's going on with our biggest and strongest ally that's under the biggest ballistic missile attack in history. But it's ridiculous that he's president. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that he's president. Here we are on the brink of a war. Any of these things could break out into a world war. And we've got a president who's non compos mentis. It's just I don't know. I don't even know how to describe this. I don't even know how you would describe this. I mean, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So Ted, yesterday, when he's had a couple in the last week, and nobody pays attention to him now anymore because he's not running, but he is the president. His incapacity is the reason that for 2 or 3 days, the people suffering from this storm had no direction, no clear guidance. Believe me, it affects the response of the federal government too. When the mayor was interested in something, things happened a lot faster than if the mayor wasn't interested in that. A former mayor taught me that. Mayor Lindsay taught me that. He said, "You want things cleaned up? Go visit the school. They'll clean up the school." You want the precinct cleaned up? Go visit the precinct. They'll clean it up. And if you want to make sure a program is working right, go inspect it. And if you want to make sure that an emergency is operating correctly, go there. That's why I went to the emergencies, all of them, to make sure they were coordinated correctly. Or if I mean, I would go. And they'd say, oh, that's going to be difficult. It's going to take, believe me, you get back in return a lot more efficient performance. Everybody stops screwing around when the mayor or the governor or the president shows up, but not when this jackass shows up. I mean, him, you're going to have
distinction between the numbers that FEMA's used and the ones that are used by the local.
In New York last week, he told people that they were in Washington. He said, "Welcome to Washington, D.C." in front of all the world leaders, who giggled. And then he referred to Carmela, whatever the hell her name is, as his boss. And what else did he do? He had something else that he did. But the big one was yesterday, not only in what he said, but in the way the first stepmother treated him. Can we show it from the time he gets off the plane? And the press is going to ask him about the attack. I mean, we made it, the attack that was made on Yemen by Israel. So let's watch this. Yeah, let's watch it come off the plane.
Troops to the Middle East.
Now, she's passing like he doesn't exist. She even look at him. Watch.
Mr. President,
out of her
will you
side.
deploy more U.S. troops to the Middle East?
She did look at him, and then just moved on. Right, and then look back. And now the jackass starts walking over like the decrepit old man that he is. The press.
I think they'll settle the strike.
And he makes a complete
Mr.
fool out of himself.
President, will you deploy more?
They ask him about the strike on Yemen, and he says they'll settle it with collective bargaining. You got to be kidding me. This guy is in charge of this country at a time of foreign and domestic peril. Look at this. They were covering this up. Harris, who's running for president, was covering that up. They should be all in jail for covering that up. Did you see that? I mean, that's a senile old man who doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's going to deal with Yemen with collective bargaining? That's going to really work. Well, we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Great on the debate better. This is Rudy Giuliani. Ted and I are debating exactly what we should do about the debate coming up, whether we should comment on it as it's going on and stream it here, or let you all watch it and we'll watch it. And if there's something significant, we'll come on after. And I'm thinking that it'd be very hard to interrupt them and comment. There's no real break point in the debate because you never know when something significant is going to happen. One of them can make it. I mean, Walz may admit that he's a communist, for example.
How do you get psyched up for a VP debate? I'm trying, man.
I'm psyched up. Let's go to the debate. I was going to wait to go to the debate, but let's go to the debate. So here I'm going to tell you straight out. I'm interested in just one thing, and I am interested in him having to answer questions about his connections to China, which are enormously suspicious. Beyond, are you showing that again?
No.
Oh, because I just think it's extraordinary the way the first stepmother walked right past him, and she left him to screw himself. I mean, amazing. Well, this guy Walz is either a Chinese operative or he's getting because right out of college, he goes on a Harvard program to China, and he is there for a year. Loves it. This is after Tiananmen Square, when they slaughtered thousands and thousands of their own people. This is when they were still killing girl babies. And Jackass loved it. I'd say he was being groomed at that time to be a Chinese operative, red Chinese operative. He comes back to the United States and he starts a business to bring children to China. For what purpose? Why would you bring children to China? You're not going to be able to have a free, open discussion of what's going on in China. You're going to have to do what the Red Chinese Party wants you to do, or they'll kill you. I mean, don't be naive. They've killed 100 million of their own people over the years. They're wiping out the Uyghur people. I mean, just get rid of them all. They're killing Christians here and there, and semi-genocide with Muslims in general. I mean, they have no regard for human life. They're the most barbaric regime on earth. And he comes back and says it was the most wonderful time of his life. He loved it there. The people are wonderful people. And then 30 times under the auspices of a business that he set up with his wife, who is a fellow traveler with him, he brings children there. So what the hell? What were they being taught? Now they say that he lied and did what he's done in many occasions. This reminds me of Biden. He exaggerated the number of times that he actually went there. It was actually 15 to 17 times. Well, it doesn't make any difference, 15 to 17 or 30. It does make a difference that he lies about everything, doesn't it? He lies about things that are consequential. He lies about his connections to the Communist Party. He lies about punking out on his National Guard unit when it was going off to see action, and the people that were served with him. He can't get anybody to stand up for him. They all say he was a miserable coward, including the minister of the unit. Says that Tim Walz is a straight out and out coward. And then he lied about his rank for years. He never got the rank that he's talking about because he never showed up to sign his dismissal papers because he was sneaking out. I mean, that's a real scumbag. Excuse the language. And you're not going to tell me that he wasn't an operative of the Red Chinese government and they let him go there 15 or 16 times. They let him bring kids there. And I think they were paying for it. And how much was he making? This was a business, I think, a profit-making business that he had. He and his wife. This is how they made money, extra money, bringing kids to China and brainwashing them, which is what you do in China. You don't have a free, open discussion of, philosophy in China. Or they don't let you come back. then it explains the comments like one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness, right? Or it's a wonderful, beautiful country, or they're very kind and wonderful people. I mean these are all things that indicate someone who is delivering a script given to them by the Chinese government. Now, the Chinese government had a program to do this. Look at how many Democrats they've infiltrated that we know about now. They had a Chinese spy at the highest levels of the New York State government with Cuomo and Hochul. They had a spy driving Dianne Feinstein for 19 years while she was on the Intelligence Committee. They had a spy having sex with Swalwell Jerkoff. I mean, that's only the beginning of it. They've had people at Harvard that were in the program he's talking about. I think it was the program he was talking about, or an allied program, that have been prosecuted for or indicted for being spies. They had a police station that they organized in New York that existed for the purpose of intimidating Chinese people of Chinese origin, even second and third generation, intimidating them to do what China wanted, Red China wanted, by threatening their relatives back in China. They had a major one in Houston. In fact, the embassy, the consulate there was thrown out. So they don't fool around. They're not spending this money on Tampon Tim so he can have a nice vacation in China. The guy takes his honeymoon in Red China. Jesus, you could die of pollution in Red China. A couple of days in Beijing, you probably get a whole bunch of crap in your lungs. Beijing is I don't know if it's the worst. I mean, I've been really only in two parts of China. I've been in Beijing and I've been in Shanghai. And Shanghai is more of a Western business city, but it's equally as intimidating in terms of they're following you, they're watching you. Beijing, I mean, they had somebody on me all the time. They tried to put a very attractive woman in with myself and my partner, and we threw her out. My security people threw her out. They definitely searched all of our luggage because my security people put little traps there for them, and the traps were. And we, of course, brought burner phones with us. You don't bring regular telephones to China; they're going to take the whole damn thing. The minute you go on, they take everything off it. So you bring a burner phone, and you have one number you communicate with. I was in the security business then, so it was easy to get one, and it was easy to hook it up. But I left my phone at home, right? And Walz loves going there. There's a place you got to leave your phone at home, but Walz finds it very comfortable and nice to go there. Now, why would that be? Well, you know why it is. Because he spouts their ideology. I'm sure he was one of those who attacked President Trump when he cut off the Chinese from coming here at a very early stage of COVID. And he was accused by Biden of being a xenophobe. Well, Biden, we know why. Biden was paid to be an operative of the Chinese government. I mean, he did horrible things like give them the Bagram Air Base 400 miles from China. He abandoned it for no reason. That was not part of the plan. His military opposed it bitterly. There's no reason to give up Bagram. I mean, even if you're going to leave Afghanistan, you got an air base 400 miles from China. You got to be out of your mind. I mean, I just don't credit it just to his dementia. Was it as bad then? I don't know. Maybe. Huh? Well, he certainly was AWL on Helene, right? Not around to deal with that. He's AWL on Israel. He hasn't said anything about it. So the VP debate tonight, I would like Vance to. I'm sure I would be. This is something we'll look for. I would be shocked. I would be shocked if the suck up reporters asked a question about his connections to China. But his connections to China are very serious. They're a serious matter of national security. I wouldn't give this guy a clearance if I were back in the Justice Department, unless I had answers to those questions, unless he could satisfy. How did you happen to go there 15 or 16 times? They allowed you to come back, bring students, have a curriculum that you followed, and you weren't teaching communism because they don't let you do that. They don't let anybody else do it. Show me the curriculum that you followed, and show me the checks. Who paid you? How much did you make? So we'll find out if they ask questions like that. The other things about him are also equally. We should explore why he has set up a center for mutilation of children without the consent of their parents. Minnesota allows children to go there, have sex change operations, and their parents can't interfere because they are property of the state. Gee, that's a Marxist idea. Where'd you hear that before? We heard that in Frederick Engel's book written upon the death of Karl Marx that talked about how the most effective way to spread communism is to get control of the minds and the hearts of the children when they're about 2 years old. Because after all, they are property of the state. Parents just get in the way. Sound like the Democrat Party and the debate over whether parents can have anything to say about the education of their children or the change of their sex. And Walz is a major proponent of that. Major. He wants Minnesota to be a center for gender altering operations and procedures. And the law says that the parents can't interfere. So the debate tonight will be interesting because they're setting it up. Even in the Wall Street Journal, Vance might have the heavier lift. After all, former President Donald Trump lost his September 10th debate. I don't know if that's true. I don't think he did. I mean, that's a matter of opinion. But I think that Vance is a very, very smart man. He is very articulate. I think Walz is like he's like the Music Man, it's like who turned out to be a total con man, right? I think he's a total con man. The guy who won't go to war with his unit because he's a piece of crap with no character. A guy who spouts communist dogma to children. A guy who lied about his DWI arrest when he was driving around drunk, imperiling the lives of children when he was a teacher, not when he was a kid. And then he lied about it. The first excuse was he had bad hearing, and that's why he drove drunk. Tell me the connection between your hearing and driving drunk. Then he lied constantly about being seeing action. He's never been in war. He said he carried this gun in action. I carried this gun in action. What kind of action? Maybe you had it with you when you were allowing Minneapolis to be burned down and your wife enjoyed the smoke? I mean, she loves China too. Nice combination, the two of you. Very, very nice, except for the fact that they want to destroy us, huh? But they're really nice people. I mean, they're really great people. Well, I'm sure the Chinese are great people, but you were dealing with the party, my friend. The school you, the school that sponsored you is owned by the Red Chinese. Everything of consequence in China is owned by the Red Chinese. It's and now it turns out that there's a whistleblower that's being hidden that has some very, very damaging information about your connection to China. And it's a unclassified Microsoft team group chat among DHS employees that contains information about about Governor Walz. And Mayorkas won't turn it over. And it has to do with the connection between Walz and the Communist Party. But they won't turn it over. So the minute they won't turn it over, I'm sorry, what am I going to conclude if they won't turn it over? I'm going to conclude that, like your statements glorifying communism, like your 15 trips there, which would be impossible for anyone that wasn't sympathetic to communism, like your own statements about how wonderful China is, how much you love it, having a honeymoon there. Really extraordinary is you and your wife, because your wife is coming on this, using Tiananmen Square as the date for your marriage so that you'd always remember it. Tiananmen Square is a terrorist. It's like saying September 11 or October 7. They slaughtered their people. There's too many issues with China, too many Democrats that have coincidentally had Chinese spies up their backside to let you skate by, Wolsey. You're not much of a governor anyway. You're a teacher, and education has gone way down since you become governor. I do hope that Senator Vance goes into some of these things. But maybe that isn't as necessary. The Chinese one is the one I'd like explored. The rest of it, I think maybe we should talk about the miserable record that you and your Democrat governors and people in Washington have, and the fact that you're going to ruin our economy. And also, we're going to have riots all over the country. I mean, you and your running mate, you allowed the damn city to burn, and your running mate made sure none of them went to jail by raising money for them. By the way, she got out a murderer or two in that process, and a sexual abuser. We want to keep current on the time here. Do we need one more break, Ted?
Yeah, we can take another break if you'd like.
Please, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. To live his honest promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. Sean is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. This is Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. So again, we'll break sharply at 9 so you can watch the debate between Senator Vance and Tampon Tim. So let's move to some lighthearted stuff, a little more lighthearted, and that is I didn't know this, but Doug Imhoff, according to Jen Psaki, has reshaped the perception of masculinity. Did you know that, Ted?
I did not know that.
Do we have her saying that?
Yep, we're gonna have that, and
Oh, maybe Tim Walz could reshape masculinity too. He can be a spokesman for Red China. That's what he is. He's a big mouth for Red China.
Sure, you planned on that, but you are an incredibly supportive spouse. Has that been an evolution for you, and do you think that's part of the role you might play as first gentleman?
It's funny, I've started to think a lot about this. I've always been like this. My dad was like this, and to me, it's the
Important part, or an interesting part of how people have talked about your role here is how your role has reshaped the perception of masculinity. And I'm not sure you planned on that, but you are
fails to mention that this perception of masculinity, this role model, impregnated his nanny when he was married to Kirsten Imhoff back in 2009 and had a baby with her. So I guess a nanny impregnator is the model for masculinity. No, what they really see as masculine, these people like Psaki, is a useless male you can step all over. And that's what she's saying. I mean, he looks like a useless male that you can step all over. Well, he really isn't. He's actually quite wealthy and probably shares and maybe even understands better, because I think he's smarter than his wife, the Marxist nature of their endeavor. So I don't know that he really is a rollover that they think he is. But to feature him as as reshaping the perception of masculinity when he impregnated his daughter's nanny is quite a gives you an idea of what the hell this political party is all about. Well, I was very sad to see that Pete Rose died. I knew Pete. I got to know Pete because he did a show at Gracie Mansion once. Remember, he used to have a radio show. I don't remember exactly why he did it. It was for a charity. I think it was for the Mickey Mantle. The Mantle family set up a charity for organ donations, and they asked me if it would be okay to bring Pete Rose because Pete was notorious, I guess, because he had a big audience and he could help raise money for it. I said, well, that's a good cause, and I don't think Pete is should have. The penalty for what he did is in capital punishment. I mean, the man shouldn't be excluded from society for the rest of his life, or from the Hall of Fame for that matter. So what did he actually do? He finally did admit that he bet on games, but he said he never bet against his team. Now, he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have bet on games, or even if he bet against his team, he shouldn't have done that. And it's wrong, and he should suffer a penalty for it. But not capital punishment, which is what I think he was given, in comparative terms, by being excluded from the Baseball Hall of Fame. This was one of the, I don't know if you put him in the top 10 or top 20 baseball players of all time. Certainly in the top 10 in our generation. There's nobody that played baseball with more gusto, more giving himself up than Pete Rose. And despite the fact that he was quite controversial, got into fights and stuff like that, when he was off the baseball field, he was a perfectly fine guy, really sensible guy, smart guy, conservative. But boy, did he play baseball. I was a catcher. And I remember I saw that going into Bruce Bocce, right? Who now is now the manager of the Rangers. But are you showing that? So that was a playoff game, I believe, right?
Cincinnati Reds. We'll have to get.
I think that was a playoff game. Do you want to show the one that New Yorkers know when he got into a fight with Buddy Harrelson? That was a playoff game, and the Mets beat them in that series. Yogi Berra was the one year that Yogi Berra was the manager of the Mets.
And a fight breaks out. Ground ball hit down to first base. Milner has it, throws to Buddy Harrelson. One to first, double play. And a fight breaks out. Pete Rose and Buddy Harrelson, both clubs fill out.
He's fighting the shortstop for the Mets in those days was Buddy Harrelson. It's not a good shortstop. And this Met team won the National League Pennant and went on to really contest the Oakland A's, who were invincible in I think it was a 7-game World Series. It's the one year that Yogi Berra managed the Mets, and I rooted for them that year because Yogi was my hero. I remember that. I remember that game, and I remember the other one. I'm sure it was a playoff game because I wouldn't be watching. I don't think I'd be watching that play if it wasn't for the fact that it was a playoff game. There's another fight that he's in. He took out another catcher too, injured him badly. There he is. He reminds me that reminds me of a legendary fight at second base between Billy Martin and Eddie Smith of the New York Giants in the World Series. The year before Billy Martin did this, Eddie Stanky spiked Phil Rizzuto. Came in with his spikes high and hurt him. And Phil wasn't a fighter. Phil was like a really good guy. He was Yogi Berra's best friend, and Billy Martin fought everybody. And he was good. He was like a boxer. So they're in spring training. And Stanky comes into second base, regular slide into second base. And Martin has the ball. This is the first encounter between them after he had spiked his friend Phil Rizzuto. So Martin takes the ball, throws it in Stanky's face, and breaks his jaw. And he says, "You don't do that to one of my players ever again." And he got suspended for the first couple of games of the season. But I don't know if Casey Stengel was all that angry. Nobody messed around too much with the Yankees after that. Now so every time Pete Rose would come to the plate, the people in New York would boo him because of what happened there with Harrelson. But come on, that's baseball. And taking out the catcher, geez, he had every right to do that. He didn't know. I can't imagine when he took out Bocce that he saw that the ball had been separated from him. So what he was trying to do is knock the ball out of his hand. He didn't realize he didn't have to. The ball had come out of Bocce's hands. Bocce's hand, however you pronounce it the right way, had come out of his hand. But it gives you an idea of how, if he was on your team, he gave up his body. You want him on your team. And those Cincinnati Red teams were some of the best teams of our generation. I remember they beat the Yankees the first time the Yankees got back in the World Series after a big drought. They're really a good team. And then we beat the Dodgers 2 in a row after that. Which reminds me, the baseball playoff season is starting. You have no idea. I imagine that this show, America's Mayor Live, began as a baseball show. Ted and I was sitting watching baseball, and I told Ted that I always was upset that I never got to do a play-by-play baseball. Every time I would be allowed on the Yankee broadcast, they'd let me do color, or they'd interview me, or they want to talk about politics. And I wanted to do play by play. And he said, "Well, why don't we just do it?" So we went on. We began with then Twitter Live, right?
Yeah.
We just put our little Twitter on. We hit live. We set it all up, and there's the game in front of us. And we're worried that we're rebroadcasting it, because they say nobody can rebroadcast. So we didn't show. We did it. Yeah, there I am. That's the beginning. That's the beginning of America's Mayor Live, and we got a tremendous audience. After about 2 days, people were listening in, and the Yankees beat the Guardians first, and then they lost in, I think, in 6 games to the hated Astros, who almost came back today.
So that's right.
Now Ted was very. You'll notice that Ted's nails are gone. He was biting them. The Tigers had a 3-run lead for the whole damn game. And then all of a sudden, in the 9th inning, they've got the tying run, the winning run on base. They got a run, and they got really screwed on a call. Do we have that call?
Well, so yeah, we have. That would have been. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
No, I mean, this is why in these. This would have. Would this have been the first out, right?
Yes.
And it would have meant that they could have gotten out of the inning with a ground ball because they had a guy on first. It would have been a double play.
Right. I gotta find it.
And the Detroit pitchers were getting banged around.
Yeah. So we'll look for. It's hard to find individual pitches. That's the problem.
Yeah. So I think we're going to have to. Let all you guys go so you can get ready for the debate between Senator J.D. Vance, former Marine, and Tampon Tim, former deserter, and also appears to be, because he doesn't answer any question, an operative of the Red Chinese. Because I don't see 15 times in China without that. And I think a lot of his statements sound like Russian and Chinese propaganda. And also the guy who allowed Minneapolis, Minnesota to burn and wouldn't send in the National Guard. And then when he did, he only sent in 1,000, and his daughter gave away their positions. Well, let's see how much of that comes out. And let's see if we actually get a fair moderating of it by the two, was it CBS? The two CBS operatives. Well, pray for the people of Israel now, particularly. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, huh? And pray for the people of Ukraine, because they're being needlessly sacrificed by corrupt governments in both countries. And pray for us, the people of the United States, to give us wisdom and strength. Enjoy the debate. And God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk,